This is the OverReaction podcast.
Well, Kerchanin, Dan, how are things?
Hey, Jeremy.
Very good. How about you, Jeremy?
Good. I just got done mountain biking, so yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, you're having better weather than we are. Then.
Well, I guess it depends, right? So we're having Indian spring or whatever you call it, I guess the reverse Indian summer. So we had a pretty warm winter. We got rain, but not much snow. So today it's probably 72 up in Park City, and that's way too warm. So yeah, amazing weather for riding, but we probably need the rain and snow.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. I saw it's going to get even hotter by you guys over the weekend, right?
Just the rest of the week. Yeah. There's some places down in the valley in Salt Lake will hit probably 81, 82, which is nuts.
Yeah. We have Chicago. I know you've spent some time here and stuff, but we have what we call fake spring. It's like the middle of winter, and then you get those that beautiful 70-degree day, and then it snows the next day. We've had that going back and forth now for the last few weeks, and it's been insanity.
So what is it this week? More the same?
So yesterday I woke up to 2 inches of snow and getting the shovel back out after not having it out forever, and shoveling the walk, and we have to shovel our sidewalk in Chicago and all that kind of stuff. And and then a little more snow this morning, and then this afternoon heats up, and tomorrow it's back to the 60s, and then 70 on Saturday. So hopefully,
you're on the upward trajectory.
We're on the upward thing, but there could be another snow day. I know my oldest, my daughter's birthday's in just a few days at March 23rd, and she, with the memories of that, it's snowed, we've worn shorts, and we've done everything in between, basically.
Yeah, you guys, the Midwest, the East, and even the Southeast, you guys definitely had a colder, snowier year than the West has, that's for sure.
Yeah, just hearing people coming out your way and realizing they had planned their trips, and then there was no snow for them to ski, like over spring breaks or winter break kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone who came to Park City, like the Park City Mountain Resort or Deer Valley, they were really disappointed. Like the only really good snow is up the Cottonwood Canyons. They get that northwest flow, and then coming off the Great Salt Lake, we get all this upflow, and it still has a lot of pretty good snow, but anywhere else it's just horrible.
Oh geez, yeah. The world has turned upside down this winter.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Some places are colder and snowy, other places are warmer and dry. So we're warm and dry. So how are things? How's business?
Business is good. Yeah, it's been a good few years for Third Eye, I have to say. Well, I know you. Maybe you want me to describe a little bit about what Third Eye does, or I can start. We can start.
Well, yeah. Let me actually back up a bit. Let's talk kind of your background. How'd you get to this point? So I know you started Third Eye, 10, 11 years ago?
Yeah, I can't believe it. 2014 was the official start year.
So coming up on 12 years, right? So give me your background, how you got into healthcare, how you got into tech, et cetera. Like what's kind of that, your journey, definitely, so to speak, origin story. And then once you're done, we'll get into Kerchanin's origin story, getting into healthcare and tech. So
her origin story is gonna be more interesting than mine.
Well, we'll see.
No, so for, kind of coming out of school, I'd studied biology, and it was also kind of right after the .com stuff had all ended. So I was kind of interested in that tech kind of .com year. So I did a little bit of management consulting, mostly for healthcare companies for a little bit, but with the background in biology, I went over to the biotech side. So it was an interesting experience. I lived in Boston at the time. I worked at a bunch of those Kendall Square oriented biotech startups, and they had cool products. And my big learning was never fight the FDA, because we had awesome products, argued with the FDA. Those products never got to market. And one of them ended up being really successful in Europe, but never got anywhere. And I knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, something in healthcare. But I wanted to also work at a company that actually had revenue and made something and did something. So I went to a company called Haemonetics that was Boston-based also. Really cool company. It was an awesome journey because they were a little bit bigger. They're about $300 million in revenue, a public company. I intended to stay there a short time, learn some stuff, and then kind of move on. And I stayed there for 10 years because they were growing so much. And so every few months I had an opportunity to do a different job there. So I'd never been in sales. I got to run a hospital-focused sales team for them, did a lot of product management, strategy, worked in the R&D group for a little while, operations, just an awesome set of experiences. And then they actually bought a company, a small company in Chicago where I'm originally from, and it was an opportunity to kind of go back there. And company was, third the size Third Eye is now at that point. And I was the first corporate person, like the corporate person to come in that no one liked at the entrepreneurial side. It was an interesting company. It was two Israeli founders, great people. They would get into horrible knockdown, drag out arguments in Hebrew. That I would have to get in the middle of not knowing exactly what they were saying and kind of be the first corporate heavy, which is never a role I've loved or wanted to do. And so I began to identify more with those guys there. And we had a really cool experience of growing a product and basically growing it 5 times in size. And it was a cool clinical diagnostic product that was used in hospitals and in ICUs to really figure out which blood products patients needed after surgeries and what would be the best treatments for them. And great experience, got me back into the entrepreneurial stuff. And so with Luke, who's my co-founder in Third Eye and our chief technology officer, we both got really interested in Google Glass back in like 20. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like the yeah, I became way too enamored of it. You could have called me a bit of a glass hole at the time, I guess. Like,
anyone swing on you? Anyone?
No. I made the mistake of I made the good decision not to ever wear them in public. So that was good. But we actually talked with a bunch of Haemonetics customers that had been were neurologists, and they had these really cool things going on at the time where they were. They had ambulances that had CT scanners on board, and the idea was someone who was suspected of having a stroke could have a CT when they were out in the field, and so they could start those life-saving thrombolytic drugs that you need to identify within 90 minutes much sooner by doing the CT before they got to the hospital. Yeah. And really unbelievable concept. And so the first version of Third Eye that Luke and I did was we made software for Google Glass that allowed the paramedic or the nurse sometimes on board the ambulance to put on the glasses and send video to the neurologist who was going to see the patient so they could do the stroke exam. They could have the CT, and as soon as they walked into the hospital, they could give those life-saving drugs right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool thing. We realized really quickly, though, because I traveled around on ambulances with a bunch of these folks, that Google Glass was not the answer at the time. We thought for sure Google would improve it. What would happen is the paramedics with our software had so much processing power, and the processor in the glass wasn't there. It would start to burn the temple of the person who was wearing it while they were doing the stroke exam. So I saw our budget go up in smoke as sort of they would throw the glasses off and break a pair of glasses, and of course. They broke 9 pairs of them, which I was not a pleasant experience. I saw all our seed capital going up in smoke a little bit there.
Yeah.
But
wow.
But it was an interesting thing, and we ended up pivoting and taking the technology we created for streaming video and putting it on a mobile device, and then the whole thing started to work on a smartphone. So this is still 2015, and it was newer that telehealth had newer place to take telehealth that it hadn't been before, and so it was working well. But we saw as we kind of started to think about, okay, could this be a real business where also we knew there was a value proposition, but could there also be a way for us as a company to make money and to do positive care? And what we found quickly was most of these folks were funded on grants, and there was money for these projects, but not necessarily for a real sustainable business. So what it helped us see, though, is most of the places that were going to pick up some of these suspected stroke patients were skilled nursing facilities and assisted livings, and helped us realize that, if you look at the data, still over a third of overall ambulance transfers are from the skilled nursing. And so it got us to a kind of our real market almost, which was like really taking that technology we developed and bringing it over to the skilled nursing side. Our first iteration of it was to let the existing physicians and medical directors that were in these skilled nursing facilities, the folks that would be responsible for those patients, gave them an opportunity to use our technology on nights and weekends, so they could try to treat those patients, and they would have a live video feed. They'd be able to check the electronic health record using our technology. But it helped us figure out the real thing was actually not so much having the technology, because when we did a large pilot with a nursing home chain that's actually still a customer for our current technology and platform. But what we found was that the providers didn't use our technology at all. The physicians, if they treated a patient in place, they would be up all night doing that. They're super busy during the day. They really needed their sleep. They felt safer many times as sending the patient off to the hospital. And so we then decided to start our own physician group at the time. And so, that's where we kind of evolved to where Third Eye is today, where we have a telehealth solution, the providers and the technology for skilled nursing and assisted living, really specialized in helping treat those folks in place, and when it's safe to do so, and only send them to the hospital when they absolutely have to.
Okay, so you have physician assistants or nurse practitioners on staff.
Yeah, exactly. So we've evolved over time. So today we have a little bit over 200 clinicians. It's about 80% of them are nurse practitioners and physician assistants. 20% are physicians. And
Gotcha.
yeah, the best way to think about us is like we have our own technology platform we built out for this. But in skilled nursing, it seems like there's usually providers around. There's always nursing staff around, and then there's a physician that usually rounds during the day, a nurse practitioner. They'll be in there during the week. But on nights and weekends, there's very few providers. And if there's an emergency with the patient, say something complex like chest pain, or they fall, or something really simple, even like a lab result comes back or an X-ray comes back in the middle of the night, they need a doctor, the nursing staff, to really look at that and decide, is it safe to keep the patient here, based on those things. And so what they would do is normally make a phone call and probably wake someone up or wake their call service up. And then many times the patient will end up being in the hospital. And so instead what they do is they walk in with a tablet running the Third Eye technology, and they hit just one button on it, very, very simple, enter a little bit of data. And then a Third Eye clinician comes on in 2 to 5 minutes, and we usually average under 2 minutes. And they partner with that nurse at the bedside to try to treat that resident or patient in place, and only send them to the hospital if they absolutely have to. And then really cool complex system in the background to route data, route to the right clinician who's licensed in that state, credentialed in that building, and then has all the data they need to make a decision. And we use some algorithms and other stuff to make sure that they have all of that data, and then everyone has access to all of that information.
Awesome. And so primarily skilled nursing, any other types of post-acute?
Yeah, the bulk has been skilled nursing. We're in a little bit over 1,100 total buildings right now. Most are skilled nursing, so meaning like the post-acute patients that are recovering from surgeries or things in the hospital, and then all the long-term care patients that are there. And then we also last year really started focusing on assisted living a little bit more, and we're growing in that space too. So more of the assisted living, memory care has been another great area where patients are usually a little bit healthier, still can be sick in those areas, but have the same kind of needs for that urgent care where they might have to go to the hospital, and instead they can use our platform, and they'll see the hospitalization rates for all of those folks drop pretty significantly.
Gotcha. That's fascinating. And who's your biggest competition then?
It's really kind of current practice. So it's that phone call that someone would make in the middle of the night back to the primary care provider, rather than use us. So there's not a ton of competitors out there. There were a few that were doing similar things to what we were doing. Some of them we've actually absorbed some of their business or partnered with them to take over the business. But really, and we've seen a couple of the large primary care practices in our space that will develop out their own telehealth offering. But it's been fascinating to see because they're great. A lot of those organizations are great at staffing providers in person during the day. Yeah. But when the way I think about it is when the pandemic happened, suddenly in the minds of a lot of practice groups, telehealth was billable. It had been billable before as a Medicare service in rural areas, became billable everywhere. A lot of those provider practices decided to set up their own telehealth platforms, and they would use a Zoom Plus style technology that was HIPAA compliant and that kind of stuff. And they would do it. But what a lot of them found is it's so hard to staff people overnight and on weekends, even if they have a dedicated group, and then all the stuff around it, like how you fit the technology into the workflow, all the integrations necessary, how you need to have a team that is training and retraining the nursing staff at a long-term care facility, and then how you're following up on all that is so hard to build. So we had some of those primary care practices that before the pandemic had been our best friends. We took over their nights and weekends for them. We did a great job of transitioning care, suddenly became competitive for a little bit in what they were doing. And then almost all of them over the last 3-4 years now have come back and said, please take this from us. We took this on.
We don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, we don't want to do it anymore. And so please take this. And that's actually been what our growth driver has been over the last few years, is those primary care practices that basically when they get to the way they work in the space is, I would say when they get to about 10 buildings they're covering, where they're the medical directors and maybe they're also rounding as the nurse practitioners in the buildings and everything, seeing patients, they get to that point where they can't just ask someone in their group to take call coverage anymore and kind of rotate. So they do something a little more formal. Maybe they try a telehealth thing, or they do something like a call coverage service. And then suddenly everything starts to cost a lot of money and it starts to break. And that's the perfect time for like a third eye type solution to come in to really help them, sleep better, know their patients are well taken care of, and then we can transition care back with our model to them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just, I was going to say, based on a lot of organizations just keep doing what they're doing. I think a lot of companies, their biggest competitors, complacency. It isn't necessarily another company. It's like, we just don't want to change, or we think we're doing okay, or change is too difficult, or whatever it is. So they just get stuck in their rut. And that's what I've found with our companies, the hardest thing to get people to do. It's they're so busy and there's all this stuff that they should be doing and could be doing, but it's just like, well, we've got a lot of fires to put out and we're doing okay. And so they just keep doing what they're doing. And eventually everybody always comes back, right? Same thing you're seeing with the primary cares that were kind of frenemies, and then they come back and they're not an enemy anymore. It's like straight friend, and it's pleading friend, like,
it's a pleading friend. Please help me out. We've spent a lot of money on this. It's worked okay, but it hasn't worked the way that they've wanted to. And so many of those groups specifically are trying to grow. They're in the mode of it's been an interesting time where I almost think of it as how hospitalists were maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago. I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago, where that was becoming the kind of gold standard of what was going on. It's almost like these, have you heard this term before, Jeremy? It's called sniffist group, but you probably have for sure, like SNIFST. It's almost like a hospitalist that's focused just on the sniff. And I feel like that's becoming something real. And so those groups are getting more organized now. They're growing a ton. As they grow, they want to make sure they can retain their providers and they can recruit new ones in new markets as they go in. And so having something where they don't have to take any night and weekend call, they know they get great care for their patients is phenomenal. And most of them now, I know we've been all talking about value-based care for so long now, and it's about to happen. It actually feels like it's happening a little bit in the post-acute and long-term care world because of all these ACOs that are coming in. Most of these provider practices are joining these ACOs, and they're seeing really good, better patient care, hitting quality metrics, and a lot of shared savings. But what having a good telehealth model helps them with is to reduce hospitalizations. And that's part of where we come in and transition care back to them. They can now do it where they do a great job during the day. They can now kind of do it 24/7 and really get into those, value-based care incentives because of that.
No, that's great. Well, Kerchanin, let's switch to you. How did you get? I mean, you've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you work with a lot of companies. You had your own gig, kind of still doing fractional work, but full time for Third Eye, and as a marketing guru. How'd you get it? What attracted you to marketing, and then what attracted you to tech and healthcare services specifically? How'd you get to where you are now?
Leapfrog. I went to graduate school for journalism originally, and I thought that I was going to do some kind of international relations or media planning, something like that. I realized very quickly that I didn't want to be like the microphone in your face type journalist was not my thing. I preferred writing. I did some work with NPR at our local chapter when I was still there, and then did a lot of like local stories, and started building some different types of projects up from there, and realized that was leaning more into kind of that digital identity type material. So once I graduated, I kind of just pivoted that direction into marketing. It was really similar realm. A lot of journalists actually end up in marketing, I realized, which was really interesting. I've met a lot of people over my career that have taken that path and ended up in the marketing world from a journalism start. The good news is most of us can write. And I think that's sort of the incentive there is like, oh, well, I could probably do something with this that's not necessarily, media. I had always said when I was younger, like I wanted to do theater. I wanted to do something creative. I'm not going to go into medicine. My dad was a doctor growing up, and I knew a lot of doctors, but it was just, I was like, I don't think I want to go to med school or do anything that has to do with healthcare. I moved to Chicago and immediately started working for Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I was like, well, okay, maybe I'll start in this sector for a little bit. For me, working at the payer level was a really good foray into sort of more advanced marketing strategies and really learning, what niche I wanted to be in. I spent the next couple of years just getting a little bit more directed. I got smaller and smaller and more niche until I went from, prior authorizations to ACOs to starting my individual practice that we were talking about. I actually last year I was working for an ACO group that had a pretty significant funding cut and couldn't really continue with marketing. But I realized that in that space, there was still a lot of need for support around communications and marketing, especially from more of a strategic angle. A lot of those places know how to tell their story, but they don't necessarily know how to tell it in a way that's compelling or to make people listen. So what I started doing was working individually with some of those groups to help them develop their story past sort of that origin story that we were talking about with Dan earlier. And that's actually how we met. I had talked to him briefly when we were at, when I was at my last gig, and was like, hey, these are cool people. And I still knew a couple folks that had been tied to them in the past. And
that was Care Connect.
That was at Care Connect. Yeah. Great folks over there. They're actually still open in the space, and they're doing well and thriving. It's just one of those things that, sometimes companies pivot and then take a different direction, and you're like, oh, well, but maybe I could still help down the road. So you keep the door open, you continue to have conversation. And the great thing is that, Dan and I kind of clicked. So we figured, let's have a conversation about how we can kind of tighten up the story and lend some services to branding and things like that. And what I discovered was that the third eye angle of healthcare is, in a way, somehow even more niche than I had gotten before that. So I was like, well,
we try to be as niche as possible.
I like the small story. I like to tell a small story in a big way. And I think there's a lot of story to tell with Third Eye. So and I stepped away from full-time LLC work, but I do still have a couple of clients in the space, and Dan and his team have been really supportive of that. But I get to spend all day, every day with them now, and that's really fun.
It's been fun. Kerchanin's been let loose within our organization and just doing some just incredible stuff. Yeah, just across the board, and helping us take a lot of the good ideas and turn them into something, I think, really professional and out there and all of that. I get people tell me all the time how much our LinkedIn and all the things we do have improved so much just over the last few months. Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot more. I mean, you know me, I'm a kind of a LinkedIn. I don't know. I guess I abuse everybody with my thoughts at least 2 or 3 times a day on different stuff. So I'm in there quite a bit looking at what goes on. You guys have definitely produced a lot more good content on a regular basis, which is good. That's what I think. marketing is such an interesting area. I swear most people don't, if you're not a really natural kind of intuitive marketer, it's like you don't quite understand what its purpose is. It's
Wow.
almost like marketing is the ability in a professional, long-term, sustainable way about connecting with the people you need to connect with to keep you in business. That's really what it is. Salespeople are so tactical in nature. Get a deal done, move on, go ahead. Product people almost don't want to know what's going on. And so I find that marketing is that's who we typically work with at our companies. We end up working primarily with two groups: marketing leadership and then customer or strategy leadership. Those are the ones that we go, mainly because we don't have to sit and explain, well, here's why you're doing something. Like they'll naturally know, oh yeah, we'll be able to produce better content like that. Or, hey, that's going to fill some gaps that some data gaps or information gaps or knowledge gaps we just don't have internally. So a lot of times we'll get pulled in, our platform will get pulled in, and it's the chief commercial officer, chief growth officer. And our first thing that I say is, hey, do you have a really strategic marketing person on board that will be point? And they'll say, well, why? You can work with us in sales. I'm like, no, we need some adult supervision in the room.
Yeah.
Like, no, because you're gonna see something that comes out from RFK Jr. and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the new thing, and you'll take off wanting to start blasting campaigns out rather than, hey, slow down there, Chief Smoke here. You're going off a little half-cocked. The distance between almost always salespeople and even a lot of product people, to them the shortest distance between 2 points certainly is a straight line. But a lot of like marketing strategy people go, hey, yeah, you can go straight, but there's a giant cliff. We're going to go this way for a little bit and then hit that bridge.
Yeah.
Sales and product are just production-based people are just, no, as fast as I can go that direction without taking a strategic 10,000 foot view and go, hang on a second. There are a couple things we might want to take account of.
It's all about big plans. We've been like, hey, we've got this big plan to get here, but there's 6 lines to get there, and also, Dan, I have to go do 17 things to set up for that in order for that to actually happen. So I'll send an email and be like, this is related, I promise. I promise this is related.
Sounds like a different wiring, right? You need a great salesperson, a great strategic marketing person, just kind of butt heads a little bit in the right way possible, but it gets you to a good place. Yeah.
Yeah, and as long as the people that are in charge, because typically people that are really good at what they do, they have a little bit of an ego, or maybe more self-assured or self-confident than they, should be. But as long as there's I think with that, capability and people that are really good at what they're doing, they're willing to kind of battle it out, but not take it personally. That's where I've seen, that's where I try to hire is, can I be brutally honest with somebody and not be mean-spirited about it? Because if I'm being mean and a jerk about something, well, then I'm to blame. But can I give somebody some really good direct feedback on something that I think needs to get done? Mm-hmm. And then afterwards kind of soften it a bit. And is that person going to be able to take it, or are they just going to get offended by everything, and their ego just crops up and you can't have it? So you can have these, like you said, Dan, this is good as long as we do this and then we do this. Like if it's always this.
Yeah. I think it's when the mutual understanding of like the role, like why someone is that way, the roles come together and all that makes so much sense. Yeah. Yeah. The direct feedback thing though, I think is so important. Like I think that's something we've tried to develop at Third Eye, and like I think in a nice style. Like I don't even know if I should say this, but I always think of like a compliment sandwich kind of thing, which works, and when you really are giving someone feedback, but you're wrapping it in things that are the sandwich is actually good stuff that is real and everything, but you need the sandwich to make it effective.
Yeah, my mantra since I joined has been, okay, guys, there's no pride in ownership. Okay, we're like, and Dan's heard me say that probably 75 times in the past month, but we I'll send something out and say, okay, I would like to know what's working and I'd like to know what's not working. And I need to know first if anything's wrong, because that's what has to get addressed right away. And then the rest of it is sort of secondary, you know?
Yeah. The culture of business, I've put up a couple posts before up on LinkedIn that basically talks like, culture eats literally everything for breakfast. Like they say, it eats strategy. I think it eats everything for breakfast. I was talking earlier this morning with one of the former top executive. He was a true C-level at Cerner, and he left right about the time the acquisition from Oracle happened. And we're just talking about, so I've done a lot of work with Cerner. I've known them a long, long time, back to my class days, and then with Reaction. And was, involved in a ton of meetings, flew out to some executive meetings in Kansas City at the time. And we're just kind of catching up, talking about things. We're kind of comparing which is natural, Cerner versus Epic, right? And what's interesting is that Epic's culture was so focused on the customer. And then this executive was saying, I think a lot of people don't understand that you can have a brilliant marketing department and you can have this brilliant sales organization. But if the company at the core isn't absolutely almost pathologically focused on the customer success, it almost doesn't matter. Because if you have really, really happy, and each customer, how happy they are, and said, you're not worrying about how often are they going to leave, and they will sing your praises. And if you need to put together a case study, they'll volunteer to be part of it, or to be a luminary site, or to be in a webinar. And he goes, that was the thing at Cerner we just didn't have. And he's like, even though it wasn't my responsibility, I spent at least 6 hours a day doing nothing but talking to customers, trying to put fires out with customers. And that kind of supercharged everything. That, if you look at Epic, there from the beginning, they knew the kind of customer they wanted, and they were patient as Job about getting that customer, and they would find out everything there about them. And if there was anything wrong, they would throw more bodies than needed. Why? Because the optics were like, oh my gosh, Epic sends, everyone. They're on the call. Judy's calling in. We get all this stuff. And it started to create this aura. And then when Judy goes to Intermountain Healthcare and Cerner's there, and she's talking to the CEO there and like, hey, what are you thinking? Like, no, we're still with Cerner. Oh, it's fine. Hey, by the way, there's a couple other big health system CEOs are going to be at this thing you're at. Well, I don't have them swing by. They can talk to you about whatever. And so she just kept dripping in. She used her customers as her marketing, used her customers as sales. And it was amazing. And intuitively, every company kind of knows that, but they just don't obsess about the customer. Yeah, there's so much growth and other kind of cool things and other shiny new toys, not realize if the entire culture and the programs and processes, et cetera, wrapped around the customer, and that becomes the most important thing. Well, then when marketing does things, it's supercharged. It's infinitely more effective, because if you're constantly bleeding customers, well, your marketing has to work in overdrive, and your sales has to work in overdrive to cover all this damage that's constantly happening in the market.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting. The slight variation I have on it in our mind for like Third Eye a little bit. And what we tried to do is stay almost obsessively focused on the customer's problems.
Yeah.
Because it took us a little bit to get to like the right problem. But when we discovered it, the lack of care, availability of care on nights and weekends and holidays, and then like that's the first part, and you can develop something, but then how do you make the solution fit exactly as the customer is working today? To your earlier point, maybe around like getting people to change and stuff. And I feel like that's been like the core focus of everybody. So as we've hired and brought on folks, it's a lot of experts that were in that world who really understand. And then it's almost thinking from the customer side out. And we've it's Kerchanins come on. We've started to put these more into like I'll call them like personas, right? I think that's what you call them, and everything. So we understand those effectively, but now we're taking all this learning from those things and kind of putting that all together so we know exactly who that person is, what we're trying to solve. We've hired a lot of people who lived in those shoes too, that can understand that and kind of do it, and then it becomes a great focus. And it's been interesting with us too. The other one always that I come back to, and maybe it's across a lot of things, but because we do clinical care, it's clinical quality above all else. Like even if it sometimes isn't the exact right thing for the customer at that moment, we are always going to deliver on that, plus that obsessiveness with solving their problems and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, by the way, Jeremy, did you listen to the Acquired podcast? Do you know which one that is?
I've listened to some snippets of it, but I'm not.
I didn't know if you'd listened to it.
Because there's so many podcasts to listen to. I swear I'm listening to is snippets anymore.
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned them is they did one of the most phenomenal things, and you might have heard of this, is episode on Epic, where they trace the history of Epic from the beginning and all the accidental things, their customer culture and all that, which is unbelievable. And yeah, it's called I think it's called there's a couple of Acquired ones, but it's called the Acquired podcast. Really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start
this podcast. Don't get me wrong, but like,
is it just it's better than mine. Because they have a focus. So it's acquired, right? Every company has a story.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to follow it.
They're like 4-hour podcasts, but you should totally listen to the one on Epic. So I wasn't sure if you'd listen to it because some of the things you were saying ring true from listening to that. Yeah.
Well, when I joined, so my background's a little weird. So I got a degree. I was almost graduating with political science, and I'd gotten married, and relatively young. I got married right before I turned 24, and then I served a mission for my church for a couple of years. So I was gone. So I was out of the circuit for a while. And so, and I had a kid relatively young. I was 26. I had a kid, but I was still trying to finish up my bachelor's degree. So I was just farting around, and I'm like, I don't want to be a lawyer, and I don't want to be in politics, and I don't want to serve fries. So what am I going to do with a political science degree if I don't do the first two? And so then I remember my Econ 110 class, which is like the ultimate sifter. Like 99% of people who take like econ intro to economics are like, this is the worst thing in the world. I can't stand it. They leave. I actually liked it. So I switched over to economics. And so I'm doing a lot of statistics and linear algebra and calculus and Black-Scholes models and regression and econometrics. And I really loved it. I wasn't great at it, but I really loved it. And I ended up getting into the tech world, oddly enough, and then got into early days in AI back in 1999. These companies that were spinning out of Carnegie Mellon and Stanford and UMass and MIT. And I did that and consulted with those companies for a while, and then joined KLAS, the research company, like Best in Class, KLAS, whatever. And so one of my first meetings was late 2003, I think early 2004, went on a trip out to Madison, Wisconsin. And that's back when Epic was in an elementary school. They weren't.
Wow. Okay.
Super thing. It was like this, not ghetto-y, business is weird. They were quirky from the jump, right? And they were focused on it from the beginning. Like they knew that they were mainly ambulatory back in 2003. They were doing some inpatient. A lot of people don't realize they started all rev cycle, patient billing. They weren't started, doing EHR and we want to be in hospitals, et cetera. When they figured things out, they were just so laser focused. From the beginning, they knew what they wanted to be. There wasn't a debate on what they were. One of the few companies, I think, that's done that. Most people iterate, even Apple, goes out and build this, et cetera. We've had multiple iterations of who our company is. And then finally, hopefully we're out of our pimply stage in teenage years. And we really have it, right? But yeah, I'll go watch that podcast.
Thriving adults now, yeah.
Yeah, because we'll see. I don't know. I'm still a petulant child, obviously, doing young man stuff in my 50s. But I'm going to go watch that. I really like good There's a bunch of podcasts I don't listen to anymore. I think everybody during the COVID lockdown years were, you kind of got in the podcasting world. Everyone started one. There were a lot of people that I like, and but they keep going down the conspiracy theories. It's just everything is that. And I'm like, I'm just done. So I've unsubscribed from about 10 or 12 now. That it's just like, well, what are you talking about? They're trying to stay relevant, right? It's like, well, you've lost me.
No, totally. I've had the same experience of like, I also got into it during the pandemic, and then like, I still try to listen to a few a week and like take a walk while I'm doing it. So like the best thing to do. But I've had to, some of them have gone in strange directions. One I used to love that was about tech and kind of business and stuff has taken a crazy, and probably shouldn't even say the podcast name, but like, crazy turn.
There's a lot that I've unsubscribed because I normally don't care about politics. Like I'm not one of those people that say, oh, this restaurant, I found out the COO of this restaurant thinks this or said this in college. I'm like, I'm not going to stop going because if I have to apply a test to every store I buy from and every executive and every person who works there, I guess I probably have to make all my own clothes and cook my own food because there's going to be somebody who I don't agree with politically or socially. I'm like, I don't want to know anymore. I'm like, I'll just buy your mountain bike or buy this. But in the podcasting world, it's almost too hard. It's like they can't stay in their lane. They just start exploding across all these different topics. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is a Wendy's. Can you just give me my they just
right. Just yes, I will have fries with that, and
for sure.
It's good the Overreaction podcast to stay true to its roots. That's good.
Well, I don't know what we are. Our roots are. We talk about whatever. So I don't know what Overreaction podcast is. It's just interesting. We're kind of just interesting conversations with interesting people. We'll see what happens. So when it comes to, I'm sure you get asked this. How often do you guys get asked? Is your system have agents in it, or is it Gen AI? Are you getting any of that kind of?
How many times today? Or oh my God!
Here's the answer.
Yeah, it's so funny because like we really do sometimes by our customers and part of the process of learning, but definitely by, I'll say, investor types that are out there and around the industry and that kind of stuff for sure. And we are definitely like trying to study and look at everything AI related, but at the end of the day, I feel like we're a clinical care company, not an AI company. So anywhere that we feel AI can be useful, whether clinically or operationally, we'll try to put in. It's good to have a co-founder like Lucas also, who, has Claude code going on at home, testing. Yeah. We don't want to use any of our data in it yet because of security or things like that, but we're learning about what's going on. But it's been interesting. Most of the places we've applied AI so far have been operational kind of productivity improvements. We do a check on every one of the medical claims that's generated to make sure it's coded appropriately, kind of thing. Has been really helpful because we found where that hasn't been the case, and go back and educate our providers and ultimately build a model that kind of incorporates all that. That's been super valuable, but we haven't found yet the real clinical use case, but we have a lot of data in our chat, thinking about it. So we're in that thinking, putting it in where it makes sense kind of thing, like to your point, while being asked about it every day and everything too. Yeah. What do you think on that? Because I'm sure you're asked the same kind of thing all the time.
Yeah, we certainly get asked about our platform. We have a lot of customers that are AI companies, and then I was at the HIM show and everybody's talking about AI. So I get asked by AI all the time, either about what we're doing or just in general. What I probably shouldn't, but I find myself a lot of times asking them, so when you say AI, define that for me. If you want to end the conversation, you just ask that question because they actually don't know what AI is.
Right.
And I'll say,
an AI company.
describe salt without using the word salty. So I'll say, describe AI without using ChatGPT or OpenAI or Claude code or anything. Can you describe AI, what you're asking me, without using any of that? They can't. 99 times out of 100, they can't do it. I'm like, are you saying automation?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of what's called AI is inference. It's certainly not, really adapting. It's got very good rule engines, which is awesome. It's a superior form of autocomplete, which is really good.
Yeah.
And we use it like you guys do. We have people that use Cursor and use Claude Code and they use Copilot. And sometimes they use Grok 5. I don't even know what the latest one is. Like our teams use it all the time internally. And in our system, we're adding automation all the time, but we're not people use our system and they think there's AI, and it's not. But most of what people use that claim is AI actually is not AI. So I try to get down to, and I probably shouldn't be so combative with people and push back, but I'm like, and I get with investors, and I put up some posts around it, like VCs just want, I need to check that box. I need to check the AI box. You got to have AI. We're like, well, we use AI all over the place. We automate the heck of it, but are you asking, is our platform AI? Like, no, and there's almost nothing outside of some of these LLMs that actually are AI, just so you know.
That's something that Dan and I have talked a lot about as far as, operationally looking into how can we automate some of our processes, some of our onboarding stuff? How can we, streamline what needs to happen in order to get a clinician on staff faster, more efficiently, like repeated requests for things, those types of things where, how can marketing help to support it from an automation perspective, how functionally we execute on things from a business angle. And I was telling Dan the other day when we had a conversation that I think the future of AI in that aspect of business is very clearly going to become, a marketing individual laying boundaries and brand standards around what is and is not an acceptable prompt, how we can respond to those prompts, what parameters and boundaries we put up, the preset settings, the security settings, all that kind of stuff. I think there's going to be a lot more responsibility on marketing shoulders, not necessarily just to produce content, but to help put bumper guards around content that is produced in a way that's, automated, outside of just process automation, but actual creative, because in that essence, nothing really is unique. You have to, then you got to put processes in place to check for, plagiarized content or AI driven content that's too repetitive of another source. And it's just not, it's not intuitive. And if you're not somebody who is aware of all of the pitfalls that could be there, then that's going to be problematic for a lot of companies, I think.
You just don't want to turn it over. You saw the big kerfuffle with AWS last week, where the code decided, is almost like an episode of Silicon Valley, where code decided just to delete an enormous amount of code and files. And so now they're like, well, this isn't going to happen. Anyone using any of these tools, you can't push to the repo unless senior engineer is reviewing it. And we look at our system and we're like, okay, people use our system to do sales campaigns and marketing campaigns and market research. And then how do you make sure that when somebody wants a demo, wants follow-up, that it's not, no one falls through the cracks? Well, you put rules in place. And so we put rules on our system. But the AI doesn't just decide and looks at it and go, oh, I'm going to say this and reply here. Like or, take over and push the nurse aside, and it takes over the interaction with with a patient or with one of your partners. Like you can't have that. No. But that's what people think is happening. Like, it's a soup. We can get rid of radiologists. We can get rid of all this stuff. Like, you can't. We're really far away from it. Like, the LLMs sound very smart, but they're actually not smart at all. They're brilliant at communicating.
And they're very organized.
Very organized.
Yeah.
And I use them for research. It's very, very good. But it hallucinates like crazy. Like, I know healthcare really well, so I'm doing an analysis for a company, and I'm using LLMs, and they're really good, but I have to prompt the living Hades out of them, because they'll start going off. I don't even know where they're pulling data from. And if I didn't, because I have such deep domain expertise in research and healthcare, I can catch it. Yeah. If you're somebody who's not as sophisticated within that domain, and you won't know what you're pushing out.
Yeah, I think you put it well earlier. The LLMs are just fancy autocompletes at this point, which is so far from any sort of super intelligence. It's crazy. Yeah. Even when I'm saying AI before, a lot of people, yeah, just even differentiate machine learning from LLMs and all these. It's just so crazy how it's used. And to your point, when you can use deterministic code that you know the rules for and everything, it usually is the smarter way. At least right now, these things will improve and they can be used within things. But to say use AI generically is
the best way I put it within the healthcare domain is it's a medical assistant. That's what it's just a really, really fast medical assistant. Look up this drug, look at this, look if something's weird, get this, etc. So they're just automated. They're getting things for the person you trust who has the domain expertise. It gets them the information they're looking for much, much faster. That's what it's for. But they're not taking over, right? It's you don't turn the wheel over to them. Like there's no way in the world I'm going to, because it's not remotely reliable. We tried embedding OpenAI into part of our platform just to do some pretty basic stuff. It was so bad at it. The errors were so significant. So I hired a couple super smart kids out of a local university that are, in AI and statistics, and had them come in and just write script after script after script. We created our own little SLM. We won't use. We actually will not embed any of the LLMs. We look at open source models and then we take it all over ourselves and tweak it, do whatever we want and train it. I won't bring in Anna. I won't bring in Grok. I won't bring in Chat. I won't bring any from Microsoft, Gemini, nothing. It's such a bad experience. So for me, it's, once bitten, I guess forever shy.
Yeah, we were looking at something too. We looked at all the AI scribes, the ambient scribes and everything, because our clinicians really wanted them. We wanted to make sure they were secure enough to be in our system. We put some in, and what we realized is it probably makes more sense with some open source code, some of the things that are available in Microsoft Azure, just to do it ourselves with our own library. Made a ton more sense to do fully integrated, and then it's trained on our own data, and by no means is it perfect or even close, but it gives a clinician like a little bit of a head start to writing a note, as an example, that they need to look at very carefully. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think we're still the bosses over AI for at least a little bit longer.
I think so. I mean, it's really exciting. Internal processes, I think, are fantastic. Starting to use it core in people's, and if you're not an AI company, you just have to be really nervous about jumping into it. So I know we're up on time. So last question. This has been awesome. I've loved it. I've totally lost track of time. I looked up.
I know.
It's like, hey, we're already a minute past.
That happens every time I talk to you, Jeremy. It's been an hour.
It's true. We do. But this one, I think we were a little more focused. Like Kerchanin, we usually talk about like the universe. Which is cool. Is there any? What should we end with? Is there any question or topic we should have covered and we just didn't get to?
Oh wow. What didn't we cover? I'm trying to think. We covered it all. I think not quite the universe you guys normally cover when it sounds like you guys talk, but we got close. We touched on everything kind of healthcare related, third eye, your areas. Yeah. So I feel good. I feel like we had a good hour with each other.
Well, so everybody listening, you're going to find a link to Dan's LinkedIn profile, Kerchanin's as well, and Third Eye. We'll put all those in the show notes down in the details, so everyone who's watching can actually go check them out because they're fantastic. Anyway, both of you, I really appreciate the time. I know you're so busy, so double appreciate all the time you're able to spend today. And I guess we'll sign off.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks so much.